Rosh Hashanah celebration.
Hit it!
Good evening.
Bienvenidos
a todos los que se encuentran
conectados desde los distintos países
a través de las redes televisivas
para esta gran celebración.
Estamos de fiesta.
Invitamos a todo el cuerpo.
Lo único que hay que hacer es abrocharse los cinturones.
Esta noche promete, habrá sorpresa.
New faces, new talent, so stay tuned.
Cabeza del año, Rosh Hashanah.
Welcome to our Rosh Hashanah celebration.
Tengamos un año dulce, agradable y de fácil sustento. Que venga tu paz, que venga tu luz.
Rosh Hashanah.
Wow, everyone. This Rosh Hashanah was impressive, spectacular, wonderful. Of course, like each one. But truly, to see the display of celebrations, musically, photography, everyone from their homes connected, celebrating as a body, establishing this head of the year and what it says and represents for us. Truly, Apostle, what a blessing. It is a joy because one more time we're establishing what the Word teaches us, which is that Christ is the head of the body. And as the head, we have established that this year will be sweet, delightful, and of easy provision. We are rejoicing and happy because we decreed it in order to establish in this new year the best of the best. The best of the best. Let's begin with Pastor Ingrid. Tell us how you lived through Rosh Hashanah and what everything seemed like to you. It was spectacular. Everyone went all out. The photos, the tables were amazing. Their homes, wow. It was truly an enjoyment to watch, because there are so many points that you could highlight in terms of the event being a success, and that each person from their home, they were able to enjoy and see it up close and enjoy it. You could tell in the attitude of each person. That's what it means to be integrated. It's something where everyone can prepare themselves and plan. Many don't understand that planning is part of the decree. The setup for everyone put an effort in to enjoy, because Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment where we come to dismount the agenda and the program of the enemy. So when you go with that expectation of saying, yes, we're going to conquer, because when you connect to the one that is the conqueror, you are more than a conqueror. And that is how it is. We feel so rejoiced because each person pushed through and they delighted themselves and they decreed it. Each person was able to understand what this time meant. Of course, and we were able to see many families with their children, with their relatives, celebrating, enjoying. Pastor Priscilla, how did this fill your expectations in terms of the music? Well, everyone did a wonderful job, truly. And there we were also able to appreciate that effort, the effort of the whole body. Seeing this team that participated with their voices, their instruments. And it was spectacular to see the tools of the house were reflected in each song that we were able to hear. For me, that was wonderful, truly. Yes. We see these prophetic songs connected with the tools, each content reflected, the way in which we connected the experiences of each person and the song that was coming. That was spectacular because that showed our nature as a ministry. Listen, we have everything and we all identify with every word of each person, and we said that has to do with me. That's how I see things. And how good, because many relatives and friends that got integrated, they noticed that we are a body. Yes, and the generation Joshua has an original language of the house, and everyone that has connected to the tools can identify that and say, I know that, I understand that, I've been there, I've heard that. Pastor Mirna, excellent. It was extraordinary. This celebration was a joy to be able to see how when we assume each guideline, each role with excellence, everything comes out spectacular. Everything was extraordinary. That is once again why as a body is that we can make it. There's no way to conquer, and much more to, for this team to come established from Moscow, Russia. Can you imagine everything that it takes, that this setup, the setup at each one of the homes? And I'm going to tell you something interesting. For me, to come here to Russia and for you to set up at home, it's not different. It's the same battle. For me, it's the same war. It's the same thing. Because at the end, each one will have the effect that is produced, because these are the first fruits that we give the kingdom and the Father. And integrally, we're all going to receive the effects of that. I love how you say that it was the same from Russia and also from each of the homes of each person. The battles were the same, but also the sponsorship was the same. The sponsorship of the Spirit for each person and in each detail that was seen. That's undeniably, and that's the part where we say we put an effort into it. Furthermore, many, our children, our relatives, they are like, what are you doing? What's going on? And why all these moves and that table? Why are you setting up like that and all that preparation? What's going on? But how good that our children now understand, our grandchildren understand, our relatives, now they integrate themselves, because now there's a lot of experience here in understanding what it means to give God the Father the first day. That's not a game. So the benefits are undeniable. Of course, that's the motivation, the benefits. That's why we're going into it motivated, and we're pushing through, and we're going through the battle, and it's difficult. But and this was a violent year. And with the knowledge and how it gives authority, those of us that know and those of us that have experience how we've gone from increase to increase, that stability of God the Father in our homes, in our finances, in our health, integrally, we help those that are still doubtful, with setup and why this much. And so when you see that synergy of that explosion, that even those that might not have that mature knowledge, but they begin to experience that, then next year they come with more encouragement and more decisive and more strength. And that's what we as a body seek to accomplish. Apostle, what was it for you as the general manager of this ministry, the finished product of this celebration? Well, I've always said it. Sometimes it's not the celebration that impacts me, but it's the journey to get to it. So the journey always is what causes that expectation. Why? Because of the obstacles, the selection of each person for each of the missions that we have to go through in the midst of the 7 months of work for this sort of mission. So it's never the same. It's always different. It always has to be under dependence, a lot of patience that each year that you have been in a Rosh Hashanah, you always see that it's different. And you have to exercise yourself in a level of patience, and you're provoked and you're poked because they want to prove that you're not going to feel the prerequisites the same way that everyone had to assume it, the way, in order to get to where they are. So together we conquer that victory. For you as the head, that, typically you don't talk about that, but the process for you yourself, in terms of Rosh Hashanah, receiving the guidelines from the Spirit of coordinating, because many people think, oh no, the apostle, he's cool, calm, and collected. He's good. He knows everything. But we know that you enter into this silence where you are expectant of the guidance. It's not like you decide from the get-go. If I would have known that this was going to be a personal consultation, I would have prepared myself. I didn't know that this was going to be an emotional moment, but it is hard to explain, yes, the level of silence. It's something where you cannot have any sort of noise. Imagine when you're all of you are full of noise. I cannot have noise. So you have to neutralize yourself in silence in order to have the sensitivity of the Spirit, because there cannot be the tiniest amount of error. So yes, it's very powerful. It's good. It's something that is hard to explain. There is a calling. There is an investiture. I know that many don't understand the move of things. Sadly, it's always been like that, and it will be like that. You say, but why you and not others? He's the one that chooses. We don't know about this. That is why when we see the results, it's when we say, okay, so, I'm not mad anymore that I wasn't called or that I didn't go here or there. No, the one that chooses is God. And there's an important element that fills everything, and is obedience. We have to obey. And obedience is not a business deal where I'm going to obey according to what I want or with my conditions. There are no conditions. And that's why everyone is enjoying the triumph, enjoying and saying, wow, how good that I didn't listen to what I wanted to do, postponing my negligence, where at any given moment, instead of getting stuck, you move to help others that saw and contributed for others to go. That's powerful. For you, Pastor Priscilla, who is in Texas and have seen the expansion also, what did it represent for you, this journey, because you are connecting more people in that territory? Of course, we've seen it's something very normal in this ministry, the expansion, and we've seen that in our territory in Texas. Even with this prophetic declaration, we see the members integrated, and the more members come, the more they integrate themselves. And our Rosh Hashanah celebration in Texas, each day is bigger, more powerful. We've seen the photos of all the guests, and it's because the kingdom expands itself. And through this declaration, this prophetic declaration, that's what we expect for this next year. And truly, that has been manifested in different territories and nations. In Europe, in America, Guyana, South America, yes. There's a brightness, there's a splendor. But the most delicious thing is that this started from a home, from a table, from a home, and it expanded to many homes where now we can eat together, sing together, enjoy together. But the most powerful thing, decree together before God the Father. That is why we are intercessors as a body. And when we unite as a body to intercede, and from the territory where we are, which is a prophetic territory where we have been sent to continue to expand the kingdom. Pastor Ingrid, you remember your first Rosh Hashanah maybe at your home with your little, and how each year that has been increasing. What does it represent for you to see from a place like this one, Moscow? We are, 2 decades later since you started, you can see the faithfulness of our Father. Wow. It's a long journey that we've walked through, that we've covered, because we've celebrated many Rosh Hashanahs. And each year, we've seen that sponsorship where it's never been missing, how the Father would move, miracles, things would happen that were unexpected. And that sustainment, the sustaining hand of the Father, always, and each day, we can see it in a more palpable way, because now it's not things that we can imagine, but they always surpass. You're always being surprised. Like, wow, look how this happened. We had the equipment and this obstacle, but look how everything worked out. Things for you to say, wow. And not in a specific area, but it's integrally the whole event. And truly, we've seen the hand of God, how each year it has the details covered so that this can take place. It is so valuable what you say, Apostle, as children, not losing the capacity to be surprised by God, because sometimes we can be so familiar with, Rosh Hashanah, and that's it, And it's not like that. We, as children of God, cannot lose the ability to be surprised in seeing God the Father in every detail that He takes on for us. Because if we lose it, then we're also going to lose seeing His sponsorship, and He sponsors us every day. And of course, every Rosh Hashanah is new for us. We don't know anything. We are going as new. Because I repeat, even who the Spirit chooses, you don't know. Because this has details, prophetic details that are very violent, because the Spirit seeks for people that have that attitude, that heart of I want. And He's the one that knows who He wants. The one that He wants is not the one that puts the most effort or works the most. There are prerequisites, and we don't know that. I don't know those. And that's why, for me, it's new, and I never connect to anything, because I know that I want to let Him do what He wants to do. He's the one that says, I want to do it there. Go here. Do it this way. What? Okay. But that I also handle it in that secret, because God is a God that does things not for you to understand it, for it to make sense, because the things of God don't make sense in our limited minds, because what He does make sense. But our minute minds do not cover the greatness, but it's the body of Christ that as a body, we can magnify the senses of God. And that is so powerful, because maybe many of those that see us from Moscow, they say, oh, wow, they have a lot of faith. Those people believe, they're very, very valiant and courageous. None of the above. It is that we have learned, like you said, to not filter things through the logic, or filter the guidelines of the Spirit through a logic, and that obedience of, okay, it's here, and shaking, where are we going? Okay, and what do we have to do? It's not that we are coming, facing it like, let's go, we're warriors. No, we still have that. We still feel, but we enter into that dependence and that obedience, which is characteristic of the kingdom. But you still have the battles and your processes. There's a powerful word for all those forecasts that, take place that are very bad. And it's that we walk looking at the invisible. We walk in that firmness, steadfastness, with our eyes closed, looking at Him, because each day brings its own demand. That's why the prophetic connection nourishes us to be able to withstand, but it will never be easy. It will never be easy, never. If it will be easy, then I wouldn't be here. Because truly, nobody would be able to depend on God if it wasn't in the midst of violence. That's why there are many that retire themselves, because truly they conquer what they wanted. But those of us that know, that are here because of God the Father, we know that we're in obedience, because at the end, God is everything for us. That's right. And that the kingdom of the heaven suffers violence, and only the violent will take it. And in that violence is that through the connection that we receive at this house, the tools is that we can translate what that violence means in the day-to-day, which is connecting, which is depending, which is to be consistent, which is to give the fruit. And that fruit merits that we always go against ourselves. Pastor Mirna, right? With this Rosh Hashanah process, how has it been for you to go against yourself in order to assume the mission? Well, listening to everything that we've talked about, in terms of the change and the metamorphosis that we go through and that we witness, in the midst of this celebration, that fear, that those marks that visit you and say, no, you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to do it. But when you assume, and we are under authority, and we assume every guideline in obedience, then we see how everything is like an explosion, right? And we see how everything comes out with excellence, because it's not us, it's the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, that is marking the route to where we have to go, what we're going to do, who are the chosen, only He knows. So everything was excellent. That's right. One of the things that we see here is that God the Father is the one that qualifies those he calls. It's not that those that are qualified come qualified. No, we're incapable, but we depend on him. And that is what we've seen in this body, in this celebration of Rosh Hashanah that we just had, and which we are grateful for, and with expectation for what the Father and the person of the Spirit will do through us this year. So, Apostle, any few words, any last words? Well, we've accomplished what we wanted to decree. I've always said it wasn't the party, it wasn't the dresses, it wasn't the food, it wasn't the decoration, it was the decree. We wanted to decree for God the Father to have the control and dominion, and for every agenda of evil to be dismounted, so that all the marks have to back off, and his purpose can be manifested in us, in our families, in our generations, in our communities, in order to change the prophetic destiny to those that have no way out, those to bring out those that are in jails, crying, help me, bring me out. And that is why we do not stop assuming this calling wherever it sends us, wherever it is, we're going to answer his call of the Spirit that one day called us from the darkness to the admirable light. So we are saying to you, may you have a sweet, delightful year of easy provision. And we continue from here after seeing that celebration that was spectacular from Rosh Hashanah, head of the year, from here from Moscow. And here we are with, part of the team that was the leadership on this mission. Here we have Pastor Lisa Rodriguez. Pastor, tell us how you saw that display of Rosh Hashanah. It was spectacular, everything wonderful. So much beauty, so much sparkle, splendor. I love it. When I see everyone at their homes, I feel like I'm there, enjoying and sharing with them. And every time you see a picture, you're like, oh, look at so-and-so. And we feel so happy, truly, to see everyone participating. And we message each other. We're like, I love that picture. And you integrate yourself seeing those pictures and the excitement of people uploading their photos, all decked out, and it's wonderful. And in your case, who come with that trajectory of covering the logistic of the elements, when you see each member, each family enjoying the elements, what do you feel like? Well, truly, it really was worth the work. And to be able to surpass all the obstacles, to be aggressive. We woke up with the gloves on, the gloves to fight, because we knew that it was going to be a battle, literally. But truly, it was worth it, because to see the end result and how we contributed so that all those elements could arrive to each person and to be able to participate, it's priceless. Of course, something beautiful about what Pastor Lisette says is that one day they went for us and now we go help others. That is priceless. The sensation that we feel, the joy that fills you, because one day the enemy said that you were nobody, that you couldn't do it, and now you can help somebody else in order for them to get that push. Because to bring each life, for them to decree in a new year, you know what that means, because look where we are from Moscow. In order to establish as a body from this nation and decree from here that Christ is Lord. That's right. And here we have part of the leadership of production aspect, the technical aspect, Leader Jeffrey, that you saw this assembled product, this effort, each capture, each pan out, each interview, everything that you saw. How do you feel seeing this Rosh Hashanah? Well, truly, each year I always tell Apostle, no, what's going to happen next year, because this year we top off the last year and it's become already regular, where this year, with everything that we saw, the pictures, the videos, families sharing, every behind the scenes, everything that took place in order to put everything together, playing the shofar, that's unforgettable. when I was called for this mission, I said, oh, wow, okay, obey. That's all I got to do. Because this is where I understand that for the spiritual, the spiritual things are craziness for the human. And that's why Apostle says, look where we are. And we're like, Moscow, even our family members are like, Moscow, Russia. And this is not AI. We are here. No, we are here. And the temperature feels great, but the thing is that we have enjoyed, we're decreeing from here, and truly this has been something that will set a before and after. And since we're here in Moscow, Russia, we are in a different time zone. We're about 7 hours away from the Eastern zone, 8 from the Central time zone, but we want to clarify that because here we have sunshine, radiant sunshine. It's a delightful temperature, but even that is part of the celebration. Yes, it's part of the demand that we have where you're, there it's nighttime, here it's daytime, and those are the challenges for us. Even something interesting, here at 4 a.m. is already morning. At 4 a.m. is morning, and at 9 p.m. is still daytime. And we're like, what? So we're a little bit dislocated, of course, just a little bit. But it is surprising, 4 a.m. it's bright. So 9 p.m. it's still bright. And you're like, okay, so when does nighttime come? There's very little darkness here because winter is long and summer is short, so the days are longer in order for them to be able to enjoy. But we give thanks to God the Father that we could be here, that we can be here this time of year, which is a little bit warmer, and we know that it's part of the wealth that the Father has for us. And now that you say, about the warmth, yeah, we're in the summertime, but it's still cold. And we use jackets, but we're in the summertime. Leader Fernando, this is truly impressive. I feel truly happy to see this come a reality after coming through a process of leaving things behind. But we have rejoiced even in the process because we know where we're going. So we know that here we decree what it is the whole year. And so it's like we're praying in order to be walking in prayer the whole year. That's why, the things that happen along the way, we take it on as normal because we know we're making violence in order to get here. So it's impressive how, like Jeffrey was saying, how things, year after year, things get better. So I'm happy to be here and blessings to everyone. Wow. You spoke for 1,000 years, a lot of wisdom in your words, because you spoke about, we pray for the whole year, and that sounds like an exaggeration, but it's true. And that is truly how we do it. We unite together to make a decree where we place in God's hands our year. It's yours. And that is a sacrifice. It's an effort. It's a surrender. And truly it's a sowing, a special sowing, where completely, integrally, spiritually, body, soul, integrally, we give Him everything. And it's true. It's true. It's the complete year. You are literally planning out your whole year. And when you look at it, when you pray for your whole year, it's worth the sacrifice. And see how now we have enjoyed all this impression that this has given us, how everyone took it on with adoration and prophetic stance. It was very, very full of joy. And this is a lot like pregnancy, that when the woman is in that process, there's a pressure, but when you give birth, you feel that, what a blessing. And at the end, what the Father seeks, like you said in an archive, is that our lives can be light, that the load can be light, that we don't feel burden of marks and the agenda of evil, but that it's light. And that's something that all of us that have participated in these Rosh Hashanahs, we feel that lightness that begins. Each year it's lighter. Each year we can walk a little bit lighter. We could do more in less time. I know that those that have experienced this for the first time, they're going to feel that. Because the first time we celebrated Rosh Hashanah, that's what we felt. Oh, wow, that the year was lighter. It was light. And everyone that connects to the ministry enjoys that. And again, like the prophet Fernando was saying, we take the whole year and in one sitting, we are aligned and decreeing, and we are already all prayed for. And for that audience that is new, you'll see that there will be a before and after. There will be a before and after in your life, because this is something that to the human logic doesn't look like something sacrificial, a dinner that you do and that's it, and that's going to change things. Well, we assume the principles of the life manual. And the principle of obedience is the one that liberates all those accesses that God the Father has for us. So it's not just a dinner. It is the decrees that truly are established in Rosh Hashanah. They cause an explosion in the spiritual in our favor. And now that you say obedience, every setup, all the setup, everything that is done is under obedience. Why? Because you're doing something that makes no sense. And if this doesn't turn up, and why this dress? I have this little dress here. No. I'm not talking about you, Lisette. And, back in the day, when she was new, oh, why do we have to eat pomegranate? When she was young, she would say, I have this little dress. No, let's help you out. Let's get you a dress. But it's because it's a level of obedience. But it's an obedience as a body where we all become one and we help each other. Because that is you exercise. That is you discipline yourself. That is you take the animal, the ox, and bring it into submission, because I'm going to sacrifice you before God the Father so that you die. Listen, even in that sense, it's unique, this sacrifice. In order for you to be able to allow yourself to enter in that dimension of the Spirit, and at the same time, you can see the deliverance that is integral. Listen. That's why this matter of obedience it's impregnated since the minute that you were told, do this, do that, sit here, you do that. So many were able to connect. Others saw and said, wow, I should have connected more. But it's okay. Move forward. And the important thing in terms of that is that you still, if you had a hard time connecting live, the good thing about our ministry is that everything is in our platforms and you can connect. It doesn't matter. Later, in the middle of the night, in any time zone, in Europe, in Canada, that is still there online. So if you couldn't do it while it was live, you still have the opportunity to see and enjoy and connect yourself and decree, because truly God the Father wants this year, like everyone, to be sweet, delightful, of easy provision, because that is the inheritance of the children. And that's why Generation Joshua invests itself so that everyone can connect. And like every year, we share the next Sunday the celebration, where from each home we can again take and see everything that happened and why we have done this investment as a body, an investment of effort and every resource, every human resource, of course. So we are here, we are celebrating, and we believe firmly what we decree every year. So for all of you, may you have a sweet year, delightful and of easy provision. Excellent. So we're here now, continuing the celebration, the expectation, the joy, the wonder. We are just in awe of what this celebration, this Rosh Hashanah celebration was. We threw the house out the window, and here we are with Pastor Charles Shesher, Leader Rosagni Rodriguez, and Leader Alfie Lorenzo, who are going to share with us their impression of what this has been. Let's begin with Leader Rosagni. Rosagni, what was this like for you? For me, this was as always super special, that each year surpasses the expectations. This year I had the opportunity to translate the ceremony, and for me that was even more special. And we always try to surpass anything that comes against so that we don't do what God the Father wants us to do. So I feel very happy, very, very, very pleased. Pastor Charles.
Pastor Charles.
Yes. What a great experience we've had. We're so excited to be celebrating this moment.
Qué gran experiencia hemos tenido. Estamos súper entusiasmados de celebrar este momento.
Everything went so well.
Y todo fluyó excelente.
There's always obstacles, but together we were able to overcome.
Siempre se presentaron obstáculos, pero juntos podemos vencer.
So we're grateful for that.
Así estamos agradecidos. Apóstol.
I love how he says it. I like how he shares it. He simplifies it. But I wouldn't want to be in his shoes because the demand was a lot. It's not easy to be in coordination of all the battles that come up, but it's good that each one takes on their role and that each one feels a weight in terms of what corresponds to them, because everything has to do with that. If you focus where you don't need to, then you could get dislocated. So that's why here we keep that balance, a balance for no one to bend too much. No, put yourself where you need to be. That's why each member in each place, in each territory, they did what they had to do. Even there, to that point you were trusted, then take it on there and honor what you've been trusted. That's why many want to, be taken to the much when they're not faithful in the little. So it is important to understand that everything that we're celebrating and that we're rejoicing in because of what happened last night is because we were faithful in the little. That's right. And speaking of what corresponds to you, here we have a very special leader because he handles all the technical, everything that has to do with audio-visual, everything that was editing and everything that allows this body, wherever they are, to see or feel like they're there. But before he speaks, you excited me with what you said. You said a very special leader. And I think so because it took 4 airplanes for him to get here. So now I understand. I didn't know he was special. But we made it. We were able to get him here. Well, amazing. And an amazing opportunity truly to be here, aside from the journey, a long journey with many delays, many things that came up, that to the naked eye, you could say it's not going to happen. But we're here just in time, just at the time that we needed to be in order for everything to flow and happen the way it needs to. And thinking about honoring that which has been given to us, our little, it's the question that I was asking myself throughout this whole journey. And as we were working this Rosh Hashanah, how can I honor what has been given to me, the little that has been entrusted to me, and what does it mean to honor? I have to give the best of me in the moment where it's required, not when I want, because when it's required. And that has been truly a before and after in learning how to take on our little. So, amazing experience. And everything from beginning to end, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Every choreography, every intention of every leader, every pixel, every detail of every leader that they contributed, that was tremendous. And none of that will be forgotten. In the contrary, everything was elevated for everyone to see the body and see how one intention, what the kingdom is and how it moves. Something important that you highlight, how each one made their contribution in terms of their images. But how good that even in that, the body, a remote body can be reflected, a body that has been able to, has known how to reach each person in their home or their dungeons, that you can make them feel part of your table, like the king called Mephibosheth. It's the same way we each have been called to enjoy the banquet, with no exception. There's no exception. Everyone was invited. Everyone had the privilege and the honor before the Father. And that is what it means to celebrate Rosh Hashanah ahead of the year, to come before the King and speak with the King and for him to decree in my favor. And he decreed it in our favor. So it is powerful to see how that synergy takes place, where each member, a prophet, became an intercessor. And from this nation, we came to decree so that the prophetic voice can be expanded, where all those that haven't been reached will be reached, because we already reached the final time. It is the Omega. The end has arrived. And it's very powerful what Leader Alfie was sharing about 17 hours of flight later, many airplanes later, because we're talking about honoring. And it's something that has been taught to us here at home, at this house, to honor the Father, not through what I say, but in an obedience that truly speaks for us, and that we believe truly that he is coming. That we are believing truly that when he comes, we want him to find us doing so. And that is part of the things that correspond to us to honor. And is that in order for us to be expectant of his coming, it has to be in this way. If we don't connect to the prophetic, if we don't connect to the flow of the house, then how am I expectant of him? You'll be taken out. So that's why these decrees come to give you the strength, the renovation, the tool, the authority, the power to resist. If not, there is no way to resist and expect his coming. There's no way. What do you think about this, Pastor Charles?
No, it's excellent. And it's so accurate. There's been a few themes that I'm thinking about. One of them is being that no role is too big or too small.
Mientras el apóstol hablaba, pensaba en algunas cosas, y una de ellas es que he entendido que ningún rol ni es pequeñito ni es muy grande.
And oftentimes we say that kind of stuff from a religious context, but when you actually live it, you're like, wow.
Y muchas veces hemos dicho eso desde un contexto religioso, pero cuando tú lo vives, tú dices, wow.
You go, wow, no, a small little detail missed could mess up a lot of things.
Tú dices, wow, un pequeño detalle que se omita puede dislocar muchas.
And I've seen that with this body, the team that's been here in this mission.
Y he visto eso con este cuerpo y el equipo que está aquí en la misión.
Every single role is very important.
Donde cada rol ha sido tan importante.
And the most mysterious thing is that the one that orchestrates this is only the Holy Spirit. Many say, no, it's not possible. Yes, the Holy Spirit. That's why there's no error. If we get into it, then there's error. But if you allow him to work and establish, listen, there'll be no error. That's why when we move with violence, we move with authority. Because when he sent you, then you have the sponsorship and you have all the authority to establish where he's sending you. And here we have seen his sponsorship through the different gifts and talents of each person. Not just the represented here, but those teams behind the scenes, those teams of multimedia that have been contributing, Leader Alfie, Leader Jeffrey, Fernando, capturing videos, sometimes not sleeping, many nights without sleep, very little rest. But it's so good that this product is finished. Of course, it's a joy and a privilege. And at the end, this has its reward. And it is for you to worship the Father, because worship to the Father is something that feels everything. Nothing in this life will feel you as when you have accomplished your duty in pleasing the one that called you from darkness to light. It's a fulfillment and a satisfaction that nothing human can give it. Nothing human can produce it in us. That when we, as a body, we are able to conquer every challenge, and that is what has been done one more time in this Rosh Hashanah that we have just celebrated from this location towards each member of Generation Joshua, for each child, each youth, each adolescent, each wife, each husband, each business person, each person that is part of this body, that from their homes they have united and are decreeing what this year will bring for us. We are happy, we are delighted, and we are thankful for God the Father that He has brought us to this point, that has helped us, that will continue to help us, and that all the glory of everything that we do is for Him. So, with nothing else to add, we wish you what we have decreed, and is that each one of us may have a sweet, delightful year of easy provision.
Dulce, agradable y de fácil sustento.
Welcome to our Rosh Hashanah celebration.
Good evening.
Bienvenidos.
A todos los que se encuentran
Conectados desde los distintos países
a través de las redes televisivas.
A esta gran celebración.
Estamos de fiesta.
Invitamos a todo el cuerpo.
Lo único que hay que hacer es abrocharse los cinturones.
Esta noche promete, habrá sorpresa.
New faces, new talent, so stay tuned.
Cabeza del año. Rosh Hashanah.
Welcome to our Rosh Hashanah celebration.
Tengamos un año dulce, agradable y de fácil sustento. Que venga tu paz, que venga tu luz.
Rosh Hashanah. Yeshua